This week on the Course of Life podcast, we're resuming normally scheduled programming here on the pod. It's a jam-packed episode. We got the FedEx Cup Playoffs, week 1 in review, week 2 coming at you in the AIG Women's Open, a bookend winner, and Phil's gambling woes revealed. Plus, we're tuned into an overdue TV show watch for me, some live music, and a movie review. This week's guest, a hard left turn from golf, on to the next adventure in life. And here in Austin, Texas, it's going to take me attending a professional bull riding event. That's right, a bull riding event. And we've got a world champion bull rider on the show in Michael Gaffney joining us here on the Course of Life. Plus, it's pizza and a bakery update when we always end with food. All of it is brought to you by our friends at Desert Fox Golf. And Mike, we just want to alert the masses that Desert Fox Golf is not only a great set of products for you, the individual golfer out there who wants to keep your phone safe with the phone caddy, or enjoy the towels, the accessories, or the Swing 8 tumblers, of course, to keep your drink cool. But if you or someone you know or a club you know is hosting a large-scale event, then you, that's right, you could get yourself a cash referral for recommending Desert Fox Golf products. Just tell them Course of Life sent you. Again, all the details are at desertfoxgolf.com regarding what they can provide for golf events, small and large. Check out everything they have to offer. But keep in mind that if you refer a large-scale event through your connections in the world of golf, whether it's someone you know at a club or a club you work at or a friend who's having a large-scale event, tell them to check out Desert Fox Golf and Course of Life sent you for that cash referral. Again, check out desertfoxgolf.com for all their great golf products.
Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Course of Life. We are proud to be presented by our friends at Desert Fox Golf and the Live Tag app. I'm Michael, he's Alex. And Alex, we're back. We've returned to normal scheduled programming after being in Ireland 3 weeks ago and having those audio diaries hit the sound waves the last 2 weeks.
Indeed.
And we're back just like Lucas Glover, the 2009 U.S. Open champion.
Correct.
Who was outside of the top 100 in the FedEx Cup 2 weeks ago, is back. He won back-to-back, finishing out the season and then taking the W at the first FedEx Cup event in Tennessee for the St. Jude. He's now 4th in the FedEx Cup standing.
That's crazy.
And he's going to be 30th in the world rankings, his highest ranking since 2010. He might have a chance at a Ryder Cup berth even, or getting a captain's pick. He's got to be looked at now. Lucas Glover, who would have thought?
All laid out for him.
I mean, crazy.
Off of 2 amazing weeks of golf here, starting with the Wyndham and North Carolina, and now at the TPC Southwind, a dog of a track, winning at a birdie fest and a little bit of a tougher course as well, too. Very impressive performances both weeks. This is a guy who has had personal life issues with his marriage that have been made very public in recent years. He had been struggling with the yips, Mike. This guy couldn't make a putt of like 2 or 3 feet for a long time, and it was embarrassing to watch him play for years, a former major champion. So him bouncing back at this stage in his life, 43 years old, Mike, like, you know, he's got to admit it. He probably thought maybe he was on the twilight and his best days of winning golf tournaments were behind him. And lo and behold, he has this unbelievable heater at a fantastic time in the season, winning 2 huge events back to back. Really, really impressive stuff from the veteran.
Yeah, his putting was horrible. He got it's pretty much the same putter that Adam Scott has.
He did everything, Mike. He did the long, the belly, the grip, the cradle, the nudged up against. You know, he flirted with the rule change on the long putter. I mean, this guy went through absolutely everything to try and figure out his putting, but he's gotten to a really comfortable spot. As you could see, he was rolling in some clutch putts late, especially late 17 and 18 on Sunday, to get to the playoff as is. Impressive stuff. Again, just one of those veterans that we've always known by name, but he's really shooting himself into the world golf stratosphere now with this unbelievably timed heater. This is that Vegas moment where you're hot at the table and you don't ever want to walk away. It feels like you'll never lose.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, so then the question is, are you putting money on Lucas Glover next weekend?
for the three-peat, right? That did not have that on my 2023 bingo card. Yeah. Us talking about a Lucas Glover three-peat on the PGA Tour. I think it was something like 8,000 to 1 odds if you'd bet him to win both weeks in the last two, parlayed. So yeah, who knows what that looks like. I think he's going off at somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 or 40 to 1 this week at Olympia Fields. Of course, he doesn't really have much history on. We'll get into that in a little bit.
But we will in a little bit.
Fascinating to see where he's put himself. And as for the Ryder Cup, like you mentioned, he started thinking about it about 15 minutes after he won for the second time. It wasn't even on his radar, but it is now.
Yeah, just crazy. Because I just think it's interesting to look at the guys who are now outside of the top 50 in the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, unfortunate end for our boy Taylor Montgomery's season, by the way.
Yeah, good effort overall. You got to think 53rd final position in the FedEx Cup standings. That's still pretty darn good. But I just thought it was interesting looking at who, Kuchar is out now, so the oldest guy left there is going to be Lucas Glover. Out there in the field, I think. Sense. Yep.
50 to 30 this week. We went from 70 to 50 for those scoring at home. It's a 3-week playoff, so it's fast. It's a quick little series right here. Our boy Seamus Power didn't have the week he would have liked, so he's going to have a big week to get into that top 30 this week. But that's the new goal is get into that top 30, Mike, and you know how well the purse pays out, like even for dead last at that Tour Championship. So if you just get into that top 30, you've essentially like made the money of winning a whole other PGA Tour event just by qualifying for next week. So a lot of money on the line this week.
I do have a question that I just thought of that I want to ask. And we had this debate on Live Take about whether or not you would take Beefy Bryson.
For the Ryder Cup team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the conversation, do you want Justin Thomas or Beefy Bryson, I think has been a conversation that we've seen a lot of. Here's my better question. Justin Thomas, who didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs this year for the first time.
Missed by a shot.
Justin Thomas or Lucas Glover on the Ryder Cup team?
Lucas Glover, the hot hand. Yeah, the hot hand.
Can you imagine Justin Thomas not being in a Ryder Cup right now, just in general?
Hey, listen, no offense, man, but Ricky had his swoon where he missed out. Yeah. Like, it's just like I know you're all part of a gang and you're all buddy buds and you all want to be there together. But if you're not all vibing and the game's not right, then we can't have you there.
I just think it's so crazy, and this is the game of golf and how crazy it is. That Justin Thomas won a major last year.
Yes, he did. That's correct.
And now he's one of the worst players on tour this year. Well, maybe not one of the worst, but he's certainly not one of the best. So
there was the knock on the previous Ryder Cup points and how they were given out, and that early major wins early in the Ryder Cup kind of 2-year schedule weighed too heavily. So this is proving that that's changed in recent years. So they've evened the scales on that note.
Yep. So that was the FedEx St. Jude. We'll talk about the BMW in a little bit, but let's talk about the other big news that came out related to the PGA Tour this week before we get into the final LPGA major of the year, and that was Phil Mickelson. We just love hearing about Phil Mickelson.
Gossip time.
I went from being a huge Phil fan to being his biggest hater.
In about it was gradual over time. I was going to say 12 months time. No, it brewed over a few years, I'd say.
It might have been 12 months. It might have really snapped into place, though, in about 12 months. It might have been wobbly for a while. But then, once he took that dirty Saudi money, it was like, okay, bye.
We read some stuff in the book, if you remember, too, a part of our old school book club series as well.
That too.
So that was the beginning of it. But this big one was from the Excerpts of a soon-to-be or maybe about to be, as I speak right now, book from Billy Walters, legendary financial tycoon guy who is in cahoots with Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, he bet a lot, it seems. We knew he was a big bettor, but he bet...
Yes, that's an understatement right there.
$100,000 per game over 1,000 times.
Yes, with his peak being 43 bets in one day. Yeah. At that denomination. So I start to sweat it, Mike, when I'm betting like 10 or 20 bucks on the game. I'm usually like a $5 unit guy. So when I get 10 or $20 a game, that's when you know it's a big deal. Phil's out here throwing 6 digits in our salaries on one baseball game here and doing it 4-digit times on the counter. Absolutely obsessed. And this was just in the excerpted early 2010s years. We don't really even know the quite full tally, although Phil gave some hints as to how just deep it could be.
Yeah, down 100 million at one point, wagering close to $1 billion. That's billion with a B.
It's a lot of total money moved around through probably illegal offshore websites, sketchy casinos, and obviously through Billy Walters for him to know all this. And that book's definitely going to be a fascinating read, if for nothing else, that Phil Mickelson chapter that we've all heard about. These excerpts coming out now. And the big scandalous one, Mike, was the Pete Rose comparison that's now hit the internet with Phil Mickelson, where he allegedly tried to place a $400,000 wager on the Ryder Cup team he was participating on in 2012. You'll remember that was the iconic meltdown where the U.S. had a commanding lead going into Sunday singles and completely blew it. I don't know if Phil actually got that bet off somewhere else, but Billy Walters would not take his money. He was not going to do any sort of Pete Rose Ponzi scheming with his boy Phil.
It's just crazy, I saw this on the internet. I don't know if it was true. I'm assuming this was that Rory was asked about Phil's betting on the Ryder Cup, and he said, he can bet on it this year.
Yeah, he's not going to be playing in it. That was the burn from Rory, who's clearly not holding back these days. He's letting all the insults fly lately.
What's it matter? He's obviously the martyr that no one wants to back up anymore.
Yeah, basically,
yes.
Yes.
Burn the bridges. Yeah. Why not?
Everyone's letting it fly. Anyways, those are some crazy numbers for anyone out there in the community. Bet responsibly, not like that, but crazy figures coming from Phil Mickelson, and those excerpts and future notes from that Billy Walters book should make for good fodder here in the coming weeks.
This weekend was the AIG Women's Open, the final major of the LPGA season at Walton Heath Golf Club across the pond. And Lilia Vu.
Yep.
Who would have thought that Lilia Vu would be the number one golfer in the LPGA, win two majors, become the first American woman to win two majors since 1999 or something. It's just who would have thought of all the women Americans out there that it would be Lilia Vu coming into
I know,
this
because
season.
we've had so many on our radar recently. When you obviously talk about Lexi Thompson trying to break through again, obviously the Quarter Sisters and what they're doing, a resurgence of Danielle Kang, other Americans that have hit the winner's circle in recent months. Lilia Vu kind of came out of nowhere to a lot of people. Yeah. She definitely struggled with her game as of just a few years ago, but it's definitely found something that hit. She had that great win overseas. And then, Mike, if you can believe it, this feels like eons ago, but I was at the first major of this LPGA season.
Yeah.
In Houston, where Lilia Vu won the Chevron and then jumped into the pond in the water by 18. It feels like a million miles away, but she bookends the major championship season by winning the first major here in the state of Texas, and then winning the final one across the pond. Very impressive season. Two majors in a year, Mike. She may never eclipse that moment, but regardless, a career year in the books for her already.
Certainly an incredible win, and to do it over the local Englishwoman, Charlie Hall, as well, who was surging there on the back nine and couldn't get it done. Felt a little bit like how Rory couldn't get it done.
A little bit of the hometown vibes. Yeah, they were trying to egg her on to win, but needless to say, Lilia Vu, she's a grinder. She's tough to beat down the stretch. Once she got a hold of that lead, it was cruise control for the last 5 or 6 holes. You could have snapped that one off on the 13th or 14th hole because she was driving it very nicely. And impressive stuff to bookend the major championship with 2 wins.
Just want to put a reminder out, too, for everyone. While we did, of course, the last 2 weeks have our audio diaries from our time in Ireland, which, for lack of a better word and not to toot our own horn too much, was spectacular.
It was great edit, by the way, from you. Congratulations on both parts there. You did a really good job. You got your storyteller on there for a couple weeks.
A little bit. I like that. But we got some videos going up on our YouTube channel as well. Of course, we got everything on Instagram. We got a video from Royal Dublin up there. K-Club is coming as well. We'll have ones from the European Club in Rosslare. So a lot of great content still coming out from this trip. Again, a huge thank you to Tourism Ireland and Golf Ireland for having us out there and putting this up in such style and really taking great care of us.
It was a great trip. The Royal Dublin book video is already out on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and check out the YouTube channel. And that K-Club video will be dropping likely, I'd say, this Friday. We're going with Friday drops for YouTube videos, so you can take a little bit of a deeper dive into those rounds we played in Ireland.
Let's look ahead to the next event in the FedEx Cup that is coming this weekend. That is the BMW Championship in Chicago. I think it's going to be interesting because Lucas Glover, back-to-back wins here the last 2 weeks. By the way, Patrick Cantlay, back-to-back wins at the BMW Championship.
Yep, and the crazy part is it was different courses, and this would make it a third different course as well too. They last came to Olympia Fields in 2020. Mike, here's a good time refresher for you. The last time they had the BMW here was that epic COVID event where Jon Rahm and DJ were burying bomb putts on each other, and they had a playoff. If you remember that, it was one of the better finishes of the COVID golf season, and electric win there. So impressive stuff from Jon Rahm. He's back to kind of semi-defend here at this course for the first time in a few years. But I like Cantlay. You hit the nail on the head. He is definitely part of my picks. My full article is up at runyourpool.com for my full team and roster of who I like at the BMW. But Cantlay is the top dog. He seems to play very well in these playoff events. It doesn't matter where you put him, where the course is. He just seems to thrive when it's FedEx Cup season.
That's right. He's Patty Ice. He's as cool as ice.
Yeah, he's not really the most exciting golfer, and he's not the fastest one either, but God damn it, Mike, he shows up when the big money's on the line. So Jay Monahan knows him very well. Let's put it that way.
Yep. All right, let's switch over to Tuned In, where we share what we're tuning into outside of the world of sports. I saw Barbie, Alex.
Movie review time, because I'm going to come with my own Barbie review next week. I can already tell you that. That's already booked on my end, but you're going to get the first crack at it. So tell me your thoughts on the Barbie movie.
I just need to say first that when I went to go see it, I wore pink, and my wonderful wife did not.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So I should come ready to walk out of the house in pink.
Yeah, you should wear pink. I wore my pink. It was a pink and blue stripe, but it was mostly pink. New polo from the European Club, actually. So
that's actually a great vibe. I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was, I thought it was fantastic. I think I had hyped it more in my mind than I needed to. Maybe didn't live up to these lofty expectations I had, but it still was incredibly well done. Very funny. And Ryan Gosling is just the perfect Ken in every way.
Will Ferrell cameo. Yes.
Will Ferrell was great. Will Ferrell was not as off the chain as I was maybe expecting Will Ferrell to be, like he can be sometimes.
All right, cool.
That's what I'm excited for. That was good. Overall was good. And, I would give it out of 5 stars. I would give it a solid 4, maybe 4.5, somewhere like 4.25.
Solid 4.25. Okay, yeah. Sounds good. All right, I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'll have my official review next week. We'll see if I meet that or exceed that. I finally got to a show, Mike, that you've been talking about forever. It's so freaking overdue that I watched the show. It's finally happened. We're through season 1 of Ted Lasso. We did it.
There you go.
So overdue. We love Roy Kent. God, that guy. He's just so, man. He's just he's turning himself around step by step.
He gets even better in season 2. Roy Kent gets even better in season 2.
And those biscuits, Mike. That's just a homemade delight from Mr. Ted Lasso. That's not any bakery right there. That's fresh from home.
That's all him. It's coming straight out of his kitchen in that second story walk up. So
I knew you'd appreciate that. So through season 1, I'll report back when I get closer to season 2 and 3.
Love it. Are you a goldfish, by the way? Are you a goldfish?
I'd like to think I am. I just like Jon Rahm said, if you can take a little bit of that attitude on the golf course, it goes a long way. You got to have that short memory span and not remember too much when you're out there playing. So if I can be a little bit more of a goldfish each day I hit the course, it'll be better for myself. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was the Tuned In, and then I went to a concert, little 90s rock action, Sum 41, Simple Plan, and The Offspring. How's that for a trio of old school rock bands?
I feel like I'm back in middle school.
Yeah, very angsty. A lot of people in their 30s and 40s that were ready to go home as soon as the show ended.
The show ended like 8:30.
The guys in The Offspring are losing their hair, unfortunately. Love them, mean it. Great show, but they're getting up there in age. It's okay. They still rocked it. Great time as always. So another concert checked off.
All right. Let's get into this week's guest. We don't stop adventuring when we go to Ireland. We keep doing more adventure things. And your next adventure, Alex, down there in Austin, has you go into a bull riding event. Bull riding.
Yeah, yeah, PBR teams event, not the PGA, the PBR. No. Okay, not Pabst Blue Ribbon. You drunkards out there. I'm talking about professional bull riding, the PBR team series. It's been going on for a couple years. My hometown team is the Austin Gamblers, so we're taking a really cool behind the scenes look at the Austin Gamblers from who better than the coach, who also happens to be a world champion. We got a world champion bull rider coming your way right now.
That's going to be great. I know. I just think bull riding is so interesting. So I can't wait to hear this one. But first, let's talk to you about the Live Take app. This is where sports debates are solved once and for all. We talk about this one a lot. This is where we go to go a little more off the chain, maybe, to kind of share our opinions about things. And like we said earlier, we were talking about whether we should have someone like Beefy Bryson in the Ryder
Cup team. Yep. There's also there's golf debates, sports debates. We've done some food debates. We were all over the map, but regardless, yeah, Live Take. It's where we settle the debates and we let the people's voice be heard as well too.
Yep. That indeed. So check it out, a Live Take on your app store. Follow us on there, COL Podcast Alex, COL Podcast Michael. Make sure to get our weekly Live Takes every week. Challenge us as well to test out to see who thinks is who's right. Live Take app downloaded on your app store today. Let your take be heard.
Next up, he is a PBR World Champion rider, Ring of Honor inductee, a legend in riding, who's now in a new coaching role with the Austin Gamblers in the PBR Team Series. It's Michael the G-Man Gaffney joining us live from Texas. Michael, how you doing today?
I'm good, Alex. How are you? Yeah.
I know you're working through life and home issues and whatnot, but I'm glad you took a few minutes to hop on because we got some exciting times, not only for yourself and the Gamblers, but the PBR as well, too. So let's get right into it. I know you've seen the PBR pretty much since its inception. For those who don't know how the PBR came to be, explain your role and everything.
A lot of things kind of drove us into that hotel room that day in 1992. There was about 12, 15 of us. And, a lot of antagonists that put us there. We were all coming and stemming from professional rodeo. And there were other non-sanctioned events. And without getting too far in the weeds here, Alice, there were lots of things that were happening. And we as bull riders felt like we needed to have a bigger say in what the format was.
Okay.
And that type of thing. I was being led by some of my mentors that were, 5, 6, 8 years older than I was. And they were my heroes at the time. I was one of the young guns, and along with Jerome Davis, who's a Carolina coach. And so we got in that room that day, and long story short, we all threw in $1,000 that we didn't have. I've always said that my check was maybe not completely hot, but it was warm, but it was a struggle for professional bull riders even at that time. And I'd just come off the biggest rodeo win of my career. I'd won the NFR, rode 9 out of 10 bulls there in Las Vegas, and after paying Uncle Sam and all the travel expenses and entry fees we had the prior year in 1991, I was basically broke. So. Again, just one of those moments in time that it was a pipe dream at best, and we just got our heads together, and we had a name. We had the professional bull riding name, and that's really all we had. And we kind of had gumption, and we had a lot of egos, but we were willing to go down the same path together. And here we are, 30 plus years later, on kind of the next evolutionary platform of the PBR.
Very cool. Yeah, that $1,000 was, I'm sure, a lot to you back then, and that $1,000 is definitely going a long way now for where the league has taken itself in the last few decades. And part of your history obviously includes the World Championship that you notched in 1997. Tell everyone a little bit about what that moment was like for you in hitting that pinnacle in your career.
Well, it was monumental, I think, for myself, like all the other champions in whatever sport and business you're in. It's just it was a highlight. I'd been through a lot. I'd been hurt a lot. And, one of my traveling partners who actually was raised right here in Dripping Springs, spent a lot of time with him down here in the Austin area. Of course, it's changed a lot since those days. And so a lot of good water, but a lot of muddy water under the bridge, as it were, from a career of riding bulls and pain, bumps and bruises, broken jaws, broken bones, and lots of surgeries. But, at the end, it's those moments that define an individual and what you're made of. And to belong, I think, Alex, if I define that moment in one or a couple of sentences, it was about feeling like I belong with the guys that I've been traveling with. These were the guys I looked up to. They were who I wanted to be like, right? These were tough guys, and these were the founders of the PBR, and again, guys that I looked up to. Every day I nodded my head and wanted to be like. So it was a real defining moment for me in my career in 1997. And so it's and now to be in a coaching role, hoping to give what knowledge I can to pass along to these young guys, even though it stresses me out more now doing this and watching these kids get on these bulls, because I'm setting the pins, I'm putting them on the bulls and that type of thing. And I think having my own son, that for once having that vulnerability that I never had when I was riding, because I didn't have children at the time. So but it's the most gratifying as well to watch them have success in the back of these bulls, and the bulls have they've just dialed it up so much more, just because the genetics and the breeding programs and the health of these animals is just incredible. So the deck is stacked against these young kids, these young athletes, but it's so inspiring to me, and it's such a great a great moment every time the bull, steps out with one of our guys on his back or one of the other riders on the other teams is very fulfilling for me. And being there originally with the PBR in the early 90s, and to see where it was and what it's become is very gratifying, I think, to myself along with the other founders.
Yeah, it's turned into like quite the mega show in the sports scene. It's gotten tons more TV coverage in the recent decades as well. The purses are up. The attention's definitely up on social media and online in this new age of consumption of media. I'm curious about your coaching rule as it pertains to Austin, Texas, where I am. This is what I'm really excited about for my visit to check out Austin Gambler Days in a couple weeks here. But Austin, Texas, as you know, Michael, it's a pro sports scene that's quiet, but it's got a country soul, and there's definitely that need for more professional teams. So tell me what it was like kind of bringing professional bull riding specifically to Austin for yourself.
Well, with me, kind of a new arrival, as it were. My wife and son and I, we moved down here, Alex, 2 years ago, this past August, for him to play soccer. We moved down here. Speaking of sports, that's why we moved from New Mexico, because of the opportunities of sports and what you as a city here, and a welcoming city. And we talk about the melting pot here and all the things that Austin has to offer. And so that's one first and foremost for me. And now to be a coach of a franchise, a professional franchise that's owned by two Texas natives. They both were raised around Houston area. They're avid athletes themselves. They just love sports. They're soccer team owners, and now they're professional bull riding team owners.
Yeah,
and you couldn't ask for any better people. But I think from a perspective of a coach, and now spearheading along with JJ Gotch, our GM, who's just been instrumental, putting us in the position to be able to bring our sport and our franchise with these riders, these athletes we have on our roster is just, I take a lot of pride in that. And our guys are just top rated kids, and they're all just kids. So again, to bring that to the Austinites is a great moment for me. And last year, I'll say this, Alex, for the first inaugural event that we'd had here in the area, in the PBR teams at the Moody Center, no less, right? We were apprehensive to see what kind of the reception that we were going to get.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. And I've always said, being one of the original founders, we'd go in early. We'd go in 2-3 days early to do PR, do the early morning radio shows, and the really things to exclaim to people how great professional bull riding. This isn't rodeo. Right, this isn't traditional rodeo. This is 3 hours of professional, intense, expect the unexpected, family type entertainment. It's raw. You can't just call time out and it's stopped. These are amazing athletic animals that buck, and so once we get people through the door, is my point, Alex. we have fans. I mean, they come once, they'll come back because it is that energetic, it's that entertaining, and it's a sports show. You got two great athletes, one a man and then one beast, right?
Yep.
Professional, high grade, genetically bucking bull that is his job is to buck you off, and they're good at it. So again, for 3 hours, there's nothing like it in the sports world. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's the oldest matchup there is, the man versus the bull. I love it.
It is.
Very cool. Yeah, and if people want to salivate a little bit more beyond this conversation, it's the ride on Prime Video as well, too, for more behind-the-scenes content. Let's get to some rapid-fire questions, though, here with Michael Gaffney, the G-Man here on The Course of Life. Let's quickly do one quick thought and help people understand who haven't seen much bull riding, the importance of the grip and actually gripping around the rope that you use to kind of keep yourself locked in for the bull ride. What's most important for them to see and understand about the grip when you're riding?
Well, I think it's very simplistic because of the rope that people see. They'll see on the Teletron, the teleprompter. They'll see a guy get pulled down and helped along with the other cowboys and other athletes get on the bull, and they tighten the bull rope around the girth, the chest area, as it were, of the animal, and they tighten that up where it's really, really solid, where you don't have slippage of the bull rope. And this bull rope's made out of polyester. It has kind of almost a suitcase type braided leather strap through that handhold that the guys warm up with like a black rosin along with some other stuff that helps get that rope really sticky when it's warmed up because of the friction. And you lay it across your palm and around, you hear the great stories or the great sentences in famous songs and that type of thing about the suicide rap and that type of thing. And it really is, because you're almost tying yourself into a car that's going to crash, right? It's kind of hopefully a controlled crash. And for 8 to 10 seconds, it's your job to keep that hand closed and find that horn or find that whistle or find that buzzer that people are so accustomed to hearing. And it really is. It's just, expect the unexpected. And it's to that guy to counter the moves of this bull that weighs, typically 16, 18, 2,000 pounds, and how quickly they move. We talk about guys that, they're outside linebackers and these types of physical.
Right. Yeah. 300 pounds, right? A thick outside linebacker. Yeah.
It's and you multiply that by darn near 10, and it gives you some perspective. But until you take a shot from one of these things, it's really remarkable what kind of power that they hold and what they have. And I always find myself telling everybody that, I'm so glad that my son is a soccer player, because it's so brutal. But hey, we're human, right? We like, why do people go to car races? Because you want to see a crash. I mean, or, maybe you don't want to see somebody die. You want to see somebody almost die, right?
You want some action. Yep.
You want some action. That's how we're made, right? The gladiator in each and every one of us. And you find a lot of the female side seem like they root for the bull more than the cowboy, which is fantastic, because these animals are beautiful and they take such good care of them. And anyway, there's a piece of the PBR and teams for everyone that everyone can get into and get involved in and enjoy, I believe.
8 seconds is that magic number you mentioned, to where we start getting to scoring territory. I'm curious, the first 8 seconds, though, which part of the first 8 seconds is the hardest to withstand?
It's hard to say. That first jump out of the chute can be so violent. If you're and we talk about a sweet spot in anything, whether it's golf or whether it's, you find guys, a quarterback step back in the pocket and deliver the ball. You find that sweet spot, and it's relative into everything, right? I think it's a race car driver, or again, a golfer or a swimmer, you have those, and bull riding is no different, but you get outside of that sweet spot, Alex, and it gets violent really quick. Right. And we talk about a game of inches, or a game of this or game of that. Ours is truly a game of hairs, because of what you're dealing with. But again, that's what makes it so exciting, I think, to watch. And then as a rider and as a washed up past rider, I should say, it is that kind of gladiator in you, that you brings it out of you. And that's what you're seeking, right? Is that kind of uncontrolled, violent moment that you have somewhat control over, and try to conquer. So it's, I can't describe it, but it's absolutely, my dad was a jet fighter pilot, back in Vietnam. That's
very
a
cool.
career military guy. And we compared that, that flying by the seat of your pants type thing, right? And I think, again, it's relative to lots of other sports, just that feeling that you seek out. And bull riding is, it has to be, at least I feel like, at the top of the list.
Nice. That adrenaline gene definitely hit. I know your mother's background in horses and your father's background in the military. It makes a lot more sense with the way you got to where you are now. Michael, yeah. we love finishing with our 19th hole question for all our guests, but I'll reframe it to you. After a big long day of riding and competition and you're hungry, what's like your go-to meal and drink that you love to have at the end of the day riding?
Back in the day, there was nothing like going, just being, I guess, not so much a ranch raised kid, but a country kid, and my mother and dad both being from the Midwest, nothing like a great big old ribeye steak and baked potato and loaded baked potato and having a cold glass iced tea. And every once in a while, back in my day, we had we had our sponsors of beer and stuff like that. So a good cold one afterwards wasn't a bad thing either. But I just sitting down to a nice meal with the guys that I competed against afterwards. Typically, we were on the road. I will say that a lot of times we were grabbing something to go. But it was just the satisfaction, I think, of having hopefully a great ride and satisfaction in how well you did your job.
Love that. Awesome. Great answer, Michael. Again, really excited to head out to Austin Gambler Days in a couple weeks at the Moody Center. The PBR Team Series is going all over, so be sure to check out their website and their socials for where they might land next. Excited to meet you and the team there, and best of luck with everything this season as well.
Yeah, roger that. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you there at the Moody.
Course of Life podcast is also brought to you by Zencastr. We've been using Zencastr literally since the beginning of this podcast. It's a super easy and secure way for us to record our audio since we're in two different parts of the country. And Alex, we've grown with them since from the beginning with them too to what they are now. And it's just super comforting to know that our audio is safe and secure, even if there's a dropout on one end or the other. Even if I don't hear you or there's something happens, I still get all of your audio.
Yeah, and that happens all the time at our fault. But shout out to Zencastr for coming through when we need them to.
That's true. It's super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. You can record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. You feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. You can also sound your best. Have you ever wondered what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast liveness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So head on over to zencastr.com/pricing and use our promo code Course of Life, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experience as we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And we're back. Great chat there with the G-Man, Michael Gaffney. Alex, how much money would you need to be paid to ride a bull for about 10 seconds?
Good question. Yeah, so 8's that parameter, so we get to that qualified ride stage where you get scored on. So last and ride 8 seconds on one of those bad boys, bucking as hard as he can. Considering the injuries I know I'm going to sustain when I land, and then the chance of what happens on the ground afterward, Mike, you're forgetting about that part.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's got to be 6 digits for me. I'm thinking
6 digits. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you're taking less. You'll do it for 10 grand.
I'll do it. Yeah. Do I get to wear full padding more than they do out there?
Same as what they do. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Then yeah, 6 figures. Yeah. Okay.
Needless to say, it's going to be fun to see that up close and personal. Yeah, like I said, I don't know. Have you ever been? I've never been to anything like this, really. I've seen the rodeo before, but I've never been to a bull riding event.
I've watched them on TV. They're really interesting to watch on TV. I have no idea what I'm watching when I watch them on TV, but it's just interesting to watch people try to hold on for dear life onto a bull. But I think they've had something like that maybe come to Savannah or maybe down to Jacksonville or Charleston or something. But
yeah, so check, like I said, check the website if you're wondering if they're coming to a city near you, because they're going all over this season. The gamblers are on fire, so looking forward to profiling more of them, being there and catching the action in person in a couple weeks.
And if you like that interview with Michael Gaffney, plus everything else we've done here and continue to do here on this podcast, make sure you punch that subscribe button, leave us a rating. 5 stars is ideal. 4 is pretty good. 3 is okay. 2 is mediocre. And 1 is just downright cruel. But I will take literally any rating you're willing to give us.
Yeah, I agree. And 1 more review is 1 more than we had before, so we'll take it.
That's true. That's very true. I think right now, last I checked on Apple Podcasts, we have a perfect 5, and we have more than 1 person who has rated us.
Yes, at least double digits. Let's just say that.
You can also follow us on Instagram and Threads. COL Podcast, Course of Life Alex, MWRINC.
Yep.
I don't use Twitter anymore, really. I even moved it off my main home screen. It's now hiding in a folder somewhere. I only open it when you tag me in something, Alex, and you're on Twitter at Course of Life 1.
I am. I'm a little upset that it doesn't sound like we're going to get the Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk fight. It sounds like that has officially fallen apart. It
sounds like Elon was just trying to push it off, and he was hurt, and he's got to have surgery, and then can we do a practice session?
A little bit of the excuse train from Elon Musk.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah, I think he was scared. of Zuck. I think that's what it was.
But once that gets sanctioned, I'll write a Run Your Pool article about it, because I can't wait for the moment when that does happen. But this week, it's all preseason NFL and college football preview for me.
That's right. It's that time on Run Your Pool for you. And, I know football is back, and it's my least favorite time of the year to that extent, because you know how much I care about my New York Giants and how bad they are. So in about 6 weeks, when the Giants have won 2 straight games, you'll hear me screaming about how great they are and let it Super Bowl or bust. But for now, let's let you have the floor, Alex.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty much backups that you've seen. I watched a little of Hard Knocks with Aaron Rodgers. One of the highlights, Mike, that you'll appreciate was a really bad pronunciation of what's a word, Mike? A fancy word for a platter of breads and meats and cheeses laid out.
Lunchables.
Yeah, what's the fancy word for that? What do you call that?
Fancy Lunchables.
That would be charcuterie, but unfortunately, the Jets lineman pronounced it Carcucci, and he went super viral for that. A very embarrassing moment at Jets camp. But nonetheless, it's been all about Aaron Rodgers on Hard Knocks so far and his new home with the Jets. So we'll see how the rest of that preseason goes. But it's been a lot of backups, a little excitement on the Patriots end, but not too much to report here. So we're inching closer towards actual meaningful football in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Let's talk briefly, too, about meaningful baseball, because it is the second half of the season.
Yeah, we're close, yeah.
Are my Yankees your Red Sox? Just the bottom of the crapper, really. Yeah,
it's this annoying spot where they have a record adjacent to 500. They play decent for a week and then play horrible for a week, and there's just no rhyme or reason. There's fighting within the team between the coach and Cora and GM and Bloom, and it's just... You can see the mediocrity written in the last 2 months of the season, but you know they're gonna do the thing where they keep you just close enough to contention to keep us reeled in for the end of the season. Yeah. It's tough goings in the AL East, though.
I will say it's really interesting to see that the Mets sold off to the Astros and the Texans the Rangers.
Yeah,
I was in the right state there. So now we got a runoff between those two teams in the AL West. So go Rangers, because
I think so. Yeah,
hate the Astros so much.
Yeah, this is one of those things, Mike, where I watched it happen because I moved here when the Astros stunk, and I watched the bandwagon form as they got good, and then the cheating scandal came. The bandwagon dissipated a bit, and then came back a little bit more ferociously. I'd side with the Rangers if I had to pick a Texas team.
Yeah. I've been to a Rangers game. It's nice. It's a nice ballpark up there.
Yeah, you and I went. They crushed the Red Sox one night.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's hashtag Always End With Food.
Yes, let's get right to it. Always End With Food on Instagram, our food content to end every Course of Life podcast. New pizza place I tried. You may have heard of it by name. It's a slightly regional going national pizza chain called Desano. Pizzeria. They have locations in Charlotte and Charleston and a bunch of cities in the South as well, too. But they got a few in Austin. I'm going to give it about a 7.4 for the pepperoni and sausage, the official Desano pizza. Decent Italian salad. Don't know if I'm going to go back. Might try something different on the menu. But that's the quick 1-bite, 30-second review for Desano in Austin, Texas.
All right. I think you would come back to the bakery after this week with what I was able to produce.
Yeah, what'd you have going on?
My bakery. Two great things that I was able to control the flavor profile on. The first is our special pretzel. So every week we do pretzels, and then we do a flavored pretzel now. So this one had sun-dried tomatoes and mixed herbs in it, and then after coming out, it was dipped in a Parmesan butter.
Whoa.
Fantastic.
That sounds like something that you should serve at like an Italian restaurant almost.
Maybe.
Big time Italian vibes there. I like that.
Yep. And then we did a babka this week with a orange almond cream cheese, almond paste, and then an orange syrup on top with a couple sliced almonds sprinkled on top as well. And that was spectacular.
Divine combo right there. Love it.
Yeah.
Back bacon. We're back at it. Love it. That was Always End With Food. Check out again, Always End With Food on Instagram, COL Podcast as well. Thank you for following and subscribing along. We appreciate you joining for the Ireland journey and staying with us for the rest of our content coming up soon in the coming weeks. For now, for Michael, I'm Alex. Everyone have a good week.